Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of GM Chat with Mike and Jeff. And tonight, we're very, very happy to welcome Pam. Her first time on this show with us. But she wanted to be part of the conversation because tonight, we're talking Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. This is the first time since we've started this show that we've had a new rulebook come out. So we thought, hey, let's take the show and go through it because this book really does have kind of everything to it.
And a lot of cool stuff.
Yep. Two quick announcements before we get started. One, please remember that we are encouraging everyone to support the Wildland Firefighter Foundation, which steps in to assist the families of firefighters who have been injured or killed in the line of duty, and with the wildfires still burning in various places in the country, they still desperately need as much help as we can give them. It's I think the least we can do to give back. So if you're willing to donate anything, even just $1, that would be very helpful. You can find the link on our website, artifactsworldwide.com, and it's right there on the front page when you hit the site, so it's very easy to find. And as I said, any contributions that you can give would be very helpful. The other announcement is that we are closing in on determining what we're going to be playing on board remotely on Sundays. We have a poll up on our website, same address, artifactsworldwide.com. It's between Secret Worlds Legends, Neverwinter Nights, Defiance, and World of Warcraft. And when last I checked yesterday, Secret World Legends was still in the lead, but I haven't looked today, so let me do that right this second here.
You can't negative vote for something.
And yes, Secret World Legends is currently still in the lead.
I beg to differ, Pam.
Yeah, that's true. Voting for something else is a negative vote for the other three, really. So.
Well, and it's literally the entire country did that not too long ago. So.
Yeah, you've got a point. This was another one of those elections where there were very few people voting for and a whole lot of people voting against.
Yes.
So. All right, so Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And I want to start by reading the disclaimer just because I just read it as we were getting ready for the show, and I thought, oh, that's clever. It reads thusly: Disclaimer. Contained herein are the observations of the Archmage Tasha, later known as the Witch Cream and then Egwilv. She is one of the greatest wizards in the history of the multiverse. We fear there is an incantation hidden within these notes and have therefore bound this tome with powerful wards. If you are reading this, the first ward has already been broken. If you dare read any further, we cannot guarantee the safety of your soul or that you won't open a portal to another plane of existence. If a portal does appear, pray that nothing worse than Tasha's mother, Baba Yaga, appears. And if the mother of hags arrives, be sure to offer only praises of her daughter. Or offer muffins. She loves muffins.
Hags tend to do that for some reason.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I thought that was clever awesome. and pretty well written. So it
yeah, that's cool.
It bore reading.
Yes.
So both of you have had a chance to look through it, I know. I read through about 95% of it today. And I was actually really impressed with a lot of what I saw. But I want to start off before we start going through, the book in general, and ask, what was your favorite thing that you read? I mean, what was the thing that leapt out to you as, oh, that's it?
Yep. I think probably the single, there's a lot of it. Like there's the whole section on character options was incredible.
Yeah.
But I think one particular singular thing would have been being able to change your subclass.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the coolest thing that they've done to this game, because like with Airman, I had an idea for him when I started, but now that he's 6th level and we've gone through all of this stuff together, he's kind of shifted his focus a little bit, and he's definitely not the character I intended him to be initially. And so I can see where people would get into a game thinking they wanted their character to be one way. 3rd level, they pick their subclass, and then they get to 5th or 6th level and they're like, oh man, this, it's working out to be something else now. And so this gives them the latitude to do that.
Right.
And I think it's brilliant. It really stuck out for me. I thought this was really cool. And you can come up with some really clever, as a DM, some really clever ways to explain narratively how it happens.
Yep.
So it's really cool. They give you some examples of what you can do. Very neat.
Yep. Pam, what did you like best?
I think so. I didn't spend as much time on the DM tools since this is GM chat, so I'm going to come as a player. So there's some interesting things in there. I thought like the sidekicks was cool. And there's some new magic items that will be really cool if we ever get them in game. But I think overall, the way that this book, from the, like Mike said, the whole character options chapter, which includes all the classes too. There's so much now to make your character the way you want. Being able to change the origin for and your racial traits and your skills that come with it, the subclass later. But even when you get into the feats, there's a lot of feats that give you access to things that are class based. So now you can take a feat if you're a spellcaster and get meta magic, or you can take a feat if you're a ranger and get a fighter fighting style. Mm-hmm. So it really lets you build the character that you see in your mind and that you're building throughout this collaborative storytelling process. So what you're not limited to, I'm playing a ranger, so now I have to fit into this box. That's all gone, and you get to create whatever kind of ranger you want. There's more subclasses, and you can change it if it's not right, but it really just it's so personalized.
It
now.
takes the game, it takes an otherwise sort of stiff and rigid game and gives it a ton of flexibility now. To really hone and shape and mold the character that you really had in your mind that you wanted. I think it's really cool.
What about you?
For me, the one that reached out and sort of grabbed me was the section on patrons.
Yes.
Oh, that was really cool. The
group patrons.
Because I started going through it going, oh yeah, that can be so and so, and then oh yeah, that's this in a Cathan, and then oh yeah, that's this in a Cathan, and oh yeah, that's this in a Cathan, and it's stuff that I've already been working on in my head, and now they've given me rules for it.
There you go.
So it becomes much easier to set up within the framework of the game system.
Yep.
And I'm looking through this, and I have of the 8 example patrons, there are already 4 in my head that are in the game right now, and a 5th that's coming.
Interesting.
Right. When we were reading that section, I thought of Viessa, right? Like she sent us on this thing and these tasks, and she's, even if some of us didn't want them, but that's right there, and it lets you get away from so y'all walk into a bar, right?
Yep. And the military force, that's absolutely in place in the world, and Tasha's part of it.
Right.
What was it? The religious order. There's a couple of those right now. You've got the Drogravanans.
Sure.
But, you know, there's another one at play too. So, and, you know, there are a couple of the others that are definitely going to come into things. I'm about, I would guess, 3/4 of the way done with what's going to be the first major world-changing story arc.
Well,
Tease.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean,
And you've got
it's not a big surprise. You can see what everything
Right.
we've been doing is leading up to a major event. So,
Yep. The interesting thing is that, yeah, I think you'll like it. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to say anything.
Well, and we're getting to tier 2, right? So
yeah, we've made it to tier 2. But,
right. So that's when things change. You know, you're hitting that next level. Most adventurers in the world don't make it even to this level. So
right.
as we get higher in level, the impacts become bigger.
Yeah. And you're probably still, oh gosh, 6 months away
Right.
from the arc that I'm working on right now. So
Twice a week.
Twice a week. I think you mean 6 months in the game time.
No, I think you mean 6 months in real time.
I mean 6 months in real time.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking about, you know, about how much further we get through the storyline every week on average. And yeah, there's definitely some stuff between now and then. Let's just put it that way.
We'll have to stop shopping a little so we can.
Yeah. Spending 2 hours on a grocery shopping excursion.
Hey, I just wanted to give her a list and go. I have a question for the two of you.
All right.
So this is an amazing book, and there's a lot of really good expansions, but how do you as a game master decide what you're going to allow, right? So we already have an established campaign. Are you guys just like, oh, there's a new book, everything is is up for grabs, or how do you incorporate that?
For me, you got to read the book carefully, and decide if there is anything you want to use in your campaign. And the way you decide that is, you know, the parameters of your campaign, you know what is allowed, what isn't allowed. And typically that comes about typically because you know what kind of limitations you want to put on the world. And especially when it's your own world. So if you have a campaign, and this, and this is what you want in it, this, and this is what you don't, that's kind of your benchmark. At least that's how I do it.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be a discussion with you all and Nikki and Annette. And, you know, if there's something in particular from this that you would like added, then I'll, you know, make a decision based on that. But in terms of like the character class stuff that's in there, I don't see a problem with including any of it, really. But I would have to write into the storyline how you learned of it and then how you managed to learn it, because it, you know, in a situation like this, it's sort of like a cosmic door opened, and, you know, like, say you wanted a particular one of the new rogue subclasses, there's like one person in the world right now who knows how to do that stuff.
Right. You know, but the thing is that there are certain things, like, let's take like the feats.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, say one of the characters, say Zori, the sorcerer, decides she wants to improve her martial skills, and she wants to take one of those feats that allow you to take from the fighter thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a simple enough thing. She can just go find one of the...
Well, she's got a member of an army and a paladin in the party. They could train her throughout the course of the
whatever.
game, right? Like,
you know, but there are fighters all through the city who could, you know, if they had time, or if they're going through drills in the inner enclave, she could maybe go and join them and learn that feat. So, I mean, that kind of thing is pretty simple, but I know what you're saying. If there's some exotic thing that we want to try that isn't readily known, that might be a little more of a challenge or a possible quest.
You know, like if Airman suddenly decided he wanted to be a soul blade.
Right.
Right. That's such a leap.
How does he even know such a thing exists?
Right.
And B, who in the world knows how to do that?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so that might become sort of a side quest all on its own of just trying to locate the person who apparently knows how to do that stuff and then convincing them to train you.
And they do talk about that, I think, of some some options for how you're going to do it narratively and what it costs and how long it takes and things.
So I have some things that I'm not going to talk about on here concerning Airman that I want to discuss with you now that this might be an option for his direction and how you can use or go about coming up with that storyline or that narrative to describe those sorts of things. I think that you might get a kick out of it, and it might be a cool thing for the story. So we'll discuss that when the cameras are off.
I look forward to it. All right, so let's talk our way through the book. The first chapter is character options. Mike already mentioned that they have now put in how you go about customizing your origin if you're building a character, how you change a skill, and how you can change your subclass.
Right.
So now those are three, I mean, they sound relatively minor, but they're really huge when it comes to customizing a character.
Well, customizing origins, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know that Dungeons and Dragons or Wizards is trying to get away from racial stereotyping in their games.
Mm-hmm.
And this probably is the single most impactful thing in the game to accomplish that.
Yeah.
You can take racial attribute bonuses at the beginning of the game, and you can assign them anywhere you want, not just dexterity for an elf or charisma for an ASMR.
Right.
You can put them wherever you want to customize your character that fits your story or your narrative for them. Brilliant.
Right. When we were talking through this, it was like, so you have a dwarf who is the runt of the litter and doesn't have that hardy +2 constitution. And because of that, he spent all his time indoors reading. So he put it in intelligence, and he's a dwarf wizard. And it just fits your character so much better, which I think as a player is really exciting.
Yeah,
and I think as a DM opens up the story options for you.
And because he's the runt, he got adept at dodging blows from the bigger kids, so he puts the other point in dexterity.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And how fun as a GM then to have those things as part of the story, right? Because it's not the typical, every dwarf is like this, or every orc is evil, and so it opens up the story possibilities on both sides.
Yep. And because those rules exist, you can easily extrapolate it out to some of the other like monster races that players may occasionally choose.
Right.
And that makes me think, of course, the first thing that comes to mind is Not from Critical Role. And I do have to say, this book is a love letter to Critical Role.
In a lot of ways.
There's so much in here that has been in the Critical Role campaign, the Season 2 campaign, that is now officially canon because it's in an official rule book. And I just have to think, I wonder if they fully realize the impact that they have had on this game. The fact
I'm sure they're aware of it. I'm sure they're aware of it.
Well,
I would say they're probably 80% most responsible for this game's revival.
Yeah.
In this day and age. You know, they're the rock stars of Dungeons and Dragons, and it's just that simple.
Well, I think Twitch and the streaming D&D.
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
they're huge,
I mean,
but you
it
have High
started with
Rollers
them.
in the UK, I think,
Sure, yeah,
who've been going at least as long, and
right.
so there's these pockets of it. Oh, I would absolutely, they get a ton of credit, but there's a lot of great streamers out there that have been building this community, and it's really the internet in general, right?
And, you know, and they're precisely why we're doing what we're doing. It looks like a lot of fun and might be something cool to get into, so we decided to start streaming our games.
Yeah.
And some of this we have seen because it's been in the playtest content on the Unearthed Arcana, which is really cool that they have out, so you can try all these things and they can get feedback on them. Beta testing a lot of this stuff, and now it's official.
Mm-hmm.
So I think so. It's kind of a simple.
So, languages, another character modification at the beginning.
Yeah.
Maybe your elf character didn't grow up with other elves. You know, maybe they grew up with dwarves. They don't speak Elven; they speak Dwarvish.
Right.
I mean, you know, stuff like that.
Well, we talked about that with Ehrman and Zori. They were orphaned as young children, like small children. They didn't grow up in an Elven culture. So being able to have, if you had this then, you could have customized, well, maybe they don't have these certain Elven traits because they weren't exposed to them.
With Ehrman, they were exposed to them a little. Yeah, they were kids, but they still started life in the Elven community.
Mm-hmm.
But that's sort of what I did with Ehrman at the beginning, because they give you the option of, you know, the Fey weapon specializations and stuff, with longbow and a longsword, or you can take a cantrip. That's why I opted to give him a cantrip, because he would have not learned how to fight by the elves. He did, however, go to the school for a semester and learn how to cast the cantrip Mage Hand before he was kicked out.
Right.
So that's kind of what I built into it. But this definitely opens up far more options for you to customize your character's background.
Well, and for you as a GM, right? I'm sure, Jeff, you can think of, you know, it gives you options for your NPCs too.
Yeah. Yeah. I will admit, when I read the chapter on sidekicks, I went, Zach?
Zach can be a sidekick?
Zach?
Maybe. I'm still thinking about it.
I was thinking Wiggy.
Well, just think about it. If he wants to leave the bar to someone, Aloric could be Zorth's sidekick.
There you go.
I haven't looked at chat. Is she on? We might get in trouble.
So yeah, I mean, there's other proficiency swapping and skill changing, a lot of cool stuff in that. But I also want to get to the new class subclasses.
Well, let's talk about the new class. Let's talk about Artificer.
So,
yes, that's been in playtest for a while now.
Well, I think it was out. They just changed a bunch of stuff, right? Or was it
well, I think it was Unearthed Arcana stuff. Okay. So it wasn't like official.
I have written one up already.
Yet, but yeah, Artificers are kind of neat.
Yeah. I will admit, there's a couple things that I'll have to go back through a little bit more carefully and really wrap my brain around, but it strikes me as it would be an interesting class to play. They certainly do get a decent selection of spells.
And you'll have to show a certain friend of ours that you can build a flamethrower. If that made it in. I think it's still in there.
Yeah. Yeah, she will enjoy that.
Yeah.
I built one. I think we were building characters. So I built a level 21 just to kind of see all the stuff, and they're pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And did it get into here? I don't remember, but I know in the Unearthed Arcana, it's the only class that ends up with more attunement slots.
Yes.
Yes.
If that stayed in, you get 6 instead of 3.
Yep. That stayed in here. It is as you work your way up in levels. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So you get to create magic items, and you actually get to attune more things.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing.
I will admit, of the specialists that they list, the one that got my attention the quickest was the armorer.
Mm-hmm.
Because I immediately went, whoa, you can essentially create magical Iron Man armor.
Yep.
And the fact that the armor that you create, if you happen to be missing a hand or missing half a leg, when you're in the armor, you're not.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that a lot, and thought, wow, that.
Well, so you know what the next logical step from that is? Is rather than a whole suit of armor, magical prosthetics.
That's a magic item.
That's a magic item now.
book.
Oh, well, there you go.
They actually have prosthetic limbs. They're uncommon magical items, and they basically are Luke's mechanical hand, except magical. They function exactly as a normal appendage.
Yeah, that's too cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So yeah,
artificers are pretty fun.
Yeah. And the infusions.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ones that got my attention was the homunculus servant. I was like, ooh. Create. What was his name? Bubo from Clash of the Titans?
Oh.
The clockwork owl?
The little clockwork owl.
Yeah. That is exactly what you could make with that.
Well, and being able to change out the infusions, right? So, because you don't always know what you're going up against, but
right,
being able to change mid-game, or making something for someone else and having a magic item, that's just so cool.
Yeah. There's lots of interesting things you can do with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so moving on, looking at the new subclasses, I have to admit, the one that took me aback the most, because, old school gamer, we're used to barbarians the way they were introduced in 2nd edition. And when I saw Path of Wild Magic for barbarian, I literally had a tilt moment where I was just like, does not compute.
Barbarians hate magic.
But then reading through it, I was like, well, son of a bitch, they actually made that make sense. Because they are not really focused on the fact that it's magic. They're focused on the fact that it's wild. It becomes an additional expression of their rage.
Right. That, you're talking about the barbarian subclasses, that Path of the Beast. My very first reaction to that was Travis Willingham. That'll be his 3rd edition, or his 3rd campaign character. He is completely dedicated and in love with werewolves. So to play a barbarian who can shapeshift into a wolfman form, he's gonna be all over.
At least be a one-shot with it.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought those were very very cool choices, very interesting choices.
I like the one thing they did with the fighter subclass Battle Master. It's not a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's been in there, but it's laid out a lot better in this book. Gives you a lot better description of it and how it works. So, you know, if that's something,
The builds.
the builds, yeah.
Yeah.
So if that's something you want to look at, it, you know, for your own character, definitely check that out because it lays it out much better and more with more articulation.
I think for a new player who's new to the game and doesn't know how everything works, having these builds, and I would think they'll end up doing them for more of the subclasses, to say, okay, here's what an archer does, and give you that description so you can pick, but then it tells you how to build it, right? So here's the maneuvers you need. Here's some feats that would be helpful.
Right.
If you're brand new, like how would you ever know how to put these things together?
Right.
So it's a little more in-depth than those sample builds that they already had. These are really cool.
Yeah. Another thing that I like that I've seen in looking through the new stuff for classes is that they've expanded the spell selection for pretty much every spellcasting class. With not only, you know, additional spells from just the player's handbook, but also new spells that are in this book. And the new spells in this book are kind of cool, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, we get to spells. There's some cool stuff to talk about.
Yeah. But, you know, looking at the stuff for bards like College of Creation, and I read through Moat of Potential and immediately went, it's the dodecahedron.
Which is funny because they have that they have the Wild Mount book,
Mhm.
so you can get that. But if you don't want to have it maybe in that setting and see it more in a traditional D&D setting, they can give you that same.
Yeah, it's essentially that same sort of, you know, you get a moment. And I love the College of Eloquence. I always wondered why there was nothing for bards that was specifically for, you know, being a silver-tongued devil, because that's the first thing I think of when I think of being a bard.
Right.
You had done that, right, in one of the play tests, or we had talked about it at some point, I think.
Yeah.
When it was on the UA, yeah. Because when I read it, I thought of you. Because you are a bard of the College of Eloquence. That's just in real life.
Pretty much. Well, I try to be. Let's put it that way.
When we read that, I was like, we have to send this to Jeff right now. So.
Well, I've only played a bard once, and if I ever played a bard again, I would play the same kind of bard. And that is, the bard is a stand-up comedian.
Oh, yeah.
That's his entertainment and how he casts his spells. And one of his favorite spells would be, in 5th edition,
Vicious Mockery.
Vicious Mockery.
So it's similar to Nikki's bard that she talks about lovingly. She had the similar. She was a comic kind of. She used humor.
Yeah, she used puns and stuff like that. Yep.
That's a fun twist on it. It doesn't have to be singing.
No. They're just storytellers. It doesn't matter how the story is told.
Well, I think beyond just the subclass, these optional class features that they've put in for every class, some of them have more than others, but it still goes back to that. This whole book is about customizing your character and finding ways to personalize. So there's some cool things there in these optional class features.
This isn't neat. Something that I tried out a little bit briefly. The Paladin has one called Oath of Glory.
Mm-hmm.
That has a lot of potential for a lot of character narrative, because the whole thing they've sworn an oath to be a legendary name in the annals of history. So there's so many different ways you can go with that.
but you could go with the I want to be, the hero, but also, it talks
if you
about,
wanted to be a Klingon, that's exactly what you would take.
Yeah.
But
I think there's also, you know,
Kapla.
the noble of, you know, it's are destined to achieve glory through deeds of heroism. You know, I could even see down the road me think if I was going to change Arabelle subclass down the road, I think it would be this. Right now, she has the, you know, the protection. It's all been all about not having anybody else have to go with through what she did with losing her family. But now, is, you know, when they met with the lady, can't remember her name. You know, they all have these destinies. You know, Araman wants to rebuild and save the
Mother
Elven
Tasha.
with Mother Tasha, and you know, we have all these grand things in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could see this being something that, you know, Arabelle, it's to get, she doesn't have that destiny anymore, but it's her destiny to have them achieve theirs. And so you could even fit that into the Oath of Glory.
Yeah. The new cleric subclasses.
Twilight and Peace was interesting.
Yeah, Peace was the one where I went, I'm sorry, in Dungeons and Dragons? Really?
Yeah, I kind of clicked on it and then clicked off of it.
I looked and I was like, okay,
You know
I can see this being perfect for NPCs.
So it's sort of pacifism,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So let me tell you how that might be able to work. Do you remember? I can't remember the name of the movie. Based, I guess, on a true story, about the guy who wanted to join the army because World War II, wanted to join the army because he wanted to help, you know, defend his country, but he was a pacifist and refused to carry a weapon, but was a medic instead. So he never took a life. He never fired a weapon. He never carried a weapon, but he helped by being a medic on the battlefield. So that might be a route you could go with that kind of a cleric.
Well, and they're not necessarily pacifists. That's when I read it, it's more, I think of them as, when I read it, they remind me of like the Jedi consular, right? So they're there to help settle disputes,
right,
and you know, bless negotiations. But there's also like the so you can try and calm things, but there's also potent spell casting where you get to add your wisdom mod to all your spell damage, and you can help people, you know, kind of protect each other. So still very potent in battle and not a pacifist. But so to me, it was more like, it felt like a Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want a Jedi priest.
And then, of course, the Twilight domain. I'm so conditioned that I saw the word Twilight and immediately went, oh. And
you sparkle.
Yeah, and I saw the graphic that went with it, and, you know, immediately was kind of like, oh God, what is this? But then I read it, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's actually that's kind of cool. You know, it's like a priest of the gloaming. You know, all about that middle stage between light and dark. And once I got that, then I was like, oh, all right, that's actually kind of cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. Okay. This will take a little bit. Druids. The stuff that they gave to druids in this book.
The wildfire is really cool, and the stars.
The circle of spores was the one that got me.
You know what I thought of? The first thing I thought of when I saw that? I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Yep. Well, the quote for that says, I'm an avid collector of spores, molds, and fungi.
Yeah. That's a direct quote from Ghostbusters. Egon.
Yeah. And it made me think of I'm blanking on the character name, Talison's current character.
Caduceus?
Yeah, Caduceus.
Him and his mushroom.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Because it basically says, druids of the circle of spores find beauty in decay.
Right.
And that's so very much Caduceus.
Sure.
But
Right.
Caduceus
Kind of
is a
the-
cleric.
Counterbalance to a grave cleric.
Yeah.
Well, Caduceus is a great
Right,
player.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the druid side of it.
Yeah. I also liked, I wasn't sure about Circle of Stars until I read the quote from Tasha. And the quote was, "What about the dark places between the stars? Don't you realize that's where the good stuff is?"
Mm-hmm.
And I went, yeah, I know that. That's where the old ones live. Yes, I know that.
I've played a druid, I think exactly twice. One druid I've played twice, 2 games. That's it. So I'd be interested to see what Annette thinks because she's played druids the most of anyone I know.
Yeah. And like you said, Circle of Wildfire looks like so much fun.
Yes.
Just, a primordial druid, really.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, this fire spirit that's with you, like that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That struck me as that would definitely be something that, again, a certain fire-loving player of our acquaintance would find intriguing.
It almost sounds like it was inspired by Keyleth.
Oh, yeah.
Did she have fire stuff?
Well, Keyleth is like,
Oh, she's an Arishari, but
yeah,
they have
Mhm.
there's a fire one.
clan, yeah, there's a fire Ashari, yeah.
Maybe. Again, as Jeff said, there's a lot in there.
Now I want to play a druid, just because I've never played one before. I want to,
You do a wildfire?
and no, I just want to do something unusual with it. I don't want to play your typical druid type guy. I want to play something.
Mm.
I don't know,
Well,
but I'll
So there'll be
throw
a
it to
one
the.
shot.
I was gonna say,
I'll put it on the pile of.
we're 20
Characters I wanna
episodes into
play,
campaign 1. We could stop now.
I don't think so.
Good thing you're out of range.
I got the Pam look. Uh-oh.
Well, at least you have your backup character ready.
No, I've already got another backup character ready.
What?
Yeah, no, I have. I did that when at 3rd level.
Oh, well, I do not have a backup character, so no dying.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's always a possibility.
I guess
But
that's up to me. I'm the cleric or the paladin.
no, I have several backup characters, but I do have one specifically in the bullpen if it should be needed.
I'm gonna play Aloric.
Oh, Lord.
Gonna quit the bar, go on an adventure.
that's always a possibility. But yeah, it could be very, very interesting. I'm looking forward to, at some point, getting a chance to actually play 5th edition again
Mhm.
and try out a couple of these. One of them, moving on to fighters, is the one where I went, oh, there are a whole legion of anime fans that just got really, really happy.
Is that Rune Knight?
No, Psy Warrior,
Eye Warrior, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
where they're bringing in the concept of a psionic martial character.
Yeah, I'm just saying that we could do one shots once a month and try out different classes.
It's Psylocke.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm reading through that kind of going, wow, okay.
Well, and there's some psionic feats and things too, and there's some psionic throughout. That's one of the things that there's very few magic or monsters that have psionic resistance.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So if you want to be a potent adventurer, psionics is
Yeah.
definitely a way to go.
Yeah. This inclusion of psionic stuff is potentially going to be a headache for yours truly, but I'll figure it out.
Well, they had, is it third edition? There was the Psionics Handbook, but
Yes,
it was
third
always
edition
kind
you
of
could
been
choose Psionicist as a
separate.
class.
Right.
They had
right.
second edition had a handbook.
Second edition, yes, all those books that we had, but
Yeah.
it was, it's kind of this own separate thing. Very few people ever played it because it was this whole new system you had to learn,
And it was kind of
here it's really
complicated.
integrating. And with this being integrated into the classes you already know, there might be more people wanting to try it.
Yeah. But you mentioned the Rune Knights. That's also really interesting. They I'm trying to remember, I think it was third edition, but it was in the novels first and then got written into the rule books, the idea of there being a runic magic system. And there was a particular region, Rashomon. They started talking about the witches of Rashomon, and they had barbarians that came from that region who also had some runic magic. And it was interesting because they had, they still had a blind spot toward, magic, but didn't see the runic magic as being part of that because it was done so differently. And because their society was led by a council of witches. So it was very interesting for me to see that they'd put this in as a fighter subclass and all the different things that you can do with it.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
They're all cool. So much stuff to play.
I think I have to look. There's one in here that I literally swore out loud when I read it. And I'm trying to see if it was one of these. I don't think it was. The new monastic traditions for monks.
Oh, okay. Way of Mercy and Way of Astral Self.
Yeah. The Way of Mercy sounds interesting in that it's almost like a fusion of monk and cleric, letting you use your key points to actually perform healing if you so choose.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then the Way of the Astral Self also made me think of this one made me think of Mortal Kombat. And the idea that if you were going to have a campaign that eventually ended up plane hopping, this would be a pretty effective class to have in that group. Just because you have somebody who's trained to deal with the astral plane. To them, it's not a foreign place. It's something that they use and visit on a regular basis.
Right. That's reality or the true form, right? And the body is the other.
Yep. And we already talked about with Paladins the Oath of Glory. Wasn't really sure what I thought about Oath of the Watchers.
That was interesting.
Yeah, it really turns Paladin more into a guardian than necessarily a holy warrior.
Yeah, but Paladins in 5th edition aren't necessarily holy characters anymore. They don't necessarily follow a deity. They follow their oaths.
Yeah.
Sometimes those oaths follow deities, but not in every case. So I can see it working.
Right, but I think but also the Oath of the Watcher seems like it'd have to be a very specific campaign.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that.
You're out just,
right,
fighting gnolls and kobolds. That's
yeah.
not going to be of interest to somebody who's really going down that path.
Right.
So you have to really think about fit into the story. So as a DM, that would be hard if somebody's like, I want to do this. And you're like,
Yeah, but at that point you have to weigh, okay, well, can I make this work in the campaign setting? because you really want to try to accommodate your players. If it absolutely falls out of bounds, then you have to tell them no. But that goes against everything, my entire philosophy as a game master. So, but some people,
I think it just depends on what the whole party is, right? You've got
right.
a druid and a ranger and a barbarian, and they're all on these very, thing, and then you've got this person out here who's all extra planar. It would be hard to tie those together, but that's a challenge for the GM. Maybe it's
Yeah.
more fun for you.
Yep.
You'd have to have a very cooperative player that would work with you on, they'd have their story, but they'd have to follow a specific path. So, but
Well,
so yeah,
we've only got about 9 minutes left, so guess what we're going to be doing next
Part 2
week?
next week.
We're going to be finishing our review of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything next week.
Yeah, because there's still a lot of magic and
Yep.
stuff to get
But
through.
with 9 minutes left, it's always been our tradition since we started the show that the first time a new guest comes on, we ask them the questionnaire made famous in France by the great talk show host Bernard Pivot, and in America made famous by James Lipton, who was sort of a spiritual disciple of Pivot's on the program Inside the Actors Studio. And it's a series of 10 questions that lets us get to know our guest a little bit better.
Now, typically, though, the guests get advance notice, and I decided to crash like 5 minutes before. So I'm not.
Actually, I'm not entirely sure that on Inside the Actors Studio, the guests got advance notice unless they watched the show.
Right. But, okay.
And knew about the
right.
questionnaire. So
All right.
the only person that's gotten advance notice was Buddy because he was terrified.
Oh, okay.
So here's question number 1, Pam.
All right.
What is your favorite word?
Oh, see, that's hard. It's not like stupid words. I do. I like say things like groovalicious and things like that aren't even real words.
Kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle.
That's
is
one
a
I
good
like.
Word. Mike would say it's like, because I say that constantly, or
yeah, it's
that's
your favorite crutch phrase.
I may have to pass and come back and think about it. That's hard.
Well, they don't get any easier.
No.
Yeah, but I can probably come up with my favorite swear word really fast.
Most people can.
That's the easiest question
Right, that's easy
for most people.
I'm trying to think of it. Like I have a word and I can't think of what it is. It's not kerfuffle, but it's something similar to that. But it also, my favorite word might also be my favorite swear word, so I'll have to think of a separate one. But clusterfuck is a really good word. But I guess I do actually. I say groovalicious a lot. It's like my favorite made up word, so I'll go with that.
All right.
When people ask me how I am, I'm groovalicious, because it's just like it can be lots of different things. It's a state of mind.
Like Smurf.
That's for sure.
Right, and that's what came to mind first. So
There you
we'll
go
with that.
What is your least favorite word?
It's not moist. So the other day when you're saying it didn't bother me.
All right.
My least favorite word. I feel like it should be profound instead of something silly. Like moist, to me, that just people get upset about that word. That's silly, but it seems like it should be something that invokes this sadness in you, right?
It's however you define it.
It'd be typically something that would invoke a emotional response,
Right.
Yeah.
and not in a good way.
See, dead air is not entertaining. Right now, my least favorite word is dissertation.
That's
So I'm gonna go with
honest.
that.
That's honest.
That's
There you
my
go.
least favorite. I don't want to think about it. I'm actually making some progress, but I think that's my least favorite word right now. Maybe in a year I'll feel differently.
Yeah.
Fair.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Coach.
What did you say?
Nothing.
What did you say? Oh, no. Purses? No, it's not that. A good story. In a lot of ways, right? So it's right before we were getting ready to turn on a video. I'm like, I think I need to cry, and so I turned on a YouTube video, and that always makes me cry. The song, and I want to feel. So whether it's a story that makes me laugh or a story that makes me cry, or just I'm a very emotionally driven person. I know that's shocking to the two of you, but so anything that is a good story, because I get wrapped up completely in it. That's why I can't start a book an hour before bedtime, because I will literally not be able to go to sleep till I finish the book. Thank God I read fast. but yeah, anything that draws me, and it's why I love role playing, and we role play, we game a lot, because I love seeing where the story is going to go. So I think storytelling.
Along that same vein, what turns you off?
Incompetence. I can handle a lot of things. I can handle things not going well, but if it's because somebody just is incompetent, and it drives me nuts, and I loathe that person. Like, just why do you even exist? Why are you in my space? Just go away.
Here's the easy one for you. What is your favorite curse word?
Clusterfuck.
Clusterfuck. Yep.
I could say my sister's favorite is twat waffle. But clusterfuck is definitely kind of it's just 2020, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there a better word for 2020?
No, you could describe it in a sentence maybe a little better, but in a single word, that's pretty much it. All right. What sound or noise do you love?
When I am upstairs, so I've been working from home. So I hear it more now because I'm home. This is why I can think of it. Josie will rarely once in a while make a rare appearance out of her room, and she will come downstairs.
Our daughter, so everybody knows.
Sorry. Mm-hmm. And she'll be talking to Mike about art or music, or they're just laughing, and just hearing that from upstairs, that the bond that they have, I love hearing the two of them talk.
Mm. What sound or noise do you hate?
Oh, any kind of like sploogey sound. That's like gross. Like oozy, creepy things. Maybe it goes to the snake phobia I have, but that's probably the one that like icks me out. I guess the worst one is hearing somebody in pain and not being able to fix it.
All right. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I would be a pastry chef.
What profession would you not like to do?
I survived retail, so I can't say that. I could not do a plumber. There's like way too many gross things that happen.
Yeah.
True enough. And finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Oof, that hit me emotionally. I don't know why. This is someone who does believe that heaven exists. I guess just your home.
All right. There you go. See, you got through it. Fairly
I only
painlessly.
cried once, so hey.
Right. That's pretty good for you.
That is pretty good for me.
So,
Ooh.
all right. So hopefully you found this helpful. Next week we will finish making our way through Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and talk through the rest of it. If you have questions or comments about something specific that either we talked about tonight or it's in the book and we're going to talk about next week, feel free to reach out. Go to artifactsworldwide.com. All of our social media is available up in the top right corner. You can also send us a message directly from there. Let us know. We'd be happy to tackle pretty much anything.
And if you've read the book or you've looked through it and you think it's stupid and stinks, let us know. Tell us why you don't like it.
But you have to tell us why. You
Yeah,
can't just say it's dumb.
give us a critique of it. Don't say it stinks, because that's not a critique. That doesn't help us,
Right.
or anyone.
Right.
So just if you want to comment and you don't like it, tell us why you don't like it.
Or if you disagree with the review that we've given so far, something we've said, you're like, no, you got it all wrong. Okay, that's very possible. Write us and let us know.
Highly likely in my case.
Yeah. So have a wonderful week. Remember, stay safe, stay sane. Please wear your mask. Please observe all of the safety precautions. Things are getting really bad out there, and I don't want to hear about anybody not being around anymore simply because they didn't take care of themselves.
Right.
Or because somebody else didn't.
Right.
So hopefully you'll do that. You'll be safe and sound at home, and we will see you next week, the night before Thanksgiving, here for another episode of GM Chat.
Right.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks for letting me crash.